Alright guys, I am back again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time I got version 1 of my Brandt Gate Avantgarda Blue Deathster deck. So version 1, everything through the second additional card pass, so through the booster set 10. And this deck uses a special type of set orders called strategies, and has you put those strategies from your order zone into your soul, in order to give your Vanguard various effects, including the ability to restand itself and attack again. So as always, we'll be going through the deck and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with the Ride deck, we have our Grade 0 starter, which is Blue Deathster Sora Period. So when he's rode upon, if you win second, draw a card. Same starter skill as always. Next, for the Grade 1, we have Blue Deathster Dark Verdict Fiendanis. So he has an auto ability that says when this unit is rode upon by Blue Deathster Heavenly Deathray Stelvane, if your soul has a Blue Deathster Sora Period, you search your deck for up to one Grade 1 strategy card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. And if you did not reveal a card, you may call this card to Rearguard Circle. So when you ride over top of him, you can search out your Grade 1 strategy card, which we do have a different strategy for each grade, 1 through 3, in this deck. And we are actually only running one copy of the Grade 1 strategy, so this card will allow you to search it out. Now, if you have already seen that Grade 1 strategy at that point, and there's no target for you to search out from your deck, you do also have the option of just superior calling Fiendanis from your soul. So you do end up getting a unit on board instead, when she is just a vanilla 8k on board, but hey, at least it's a body. So it's either a free +1 to your hand, or a Soul Blast 1 effectively for a +1 to your board. So either way, it will be generating some card advantage for you. Next up, for the Grade 2, we have Blue Deathster Heavenly Deathray Stelvane. So his auto ability says when this unit is rode upon by a Grade 3 card with Avantgarda in its card name, if your soul has a Blue Deathster Sora Period, you search your deck for up to one Grade 2 strategy card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And if you did not reveal a card, you may call this card to Rearguard Circle. So again, a very similar skill to Fiendanis, letting you search out a Grade 2 strategy instead, which we're running 2 copies of the Grade 2 strategy in this deck, so you're more likely to still have a target for him left in your deck to search out. However, if you have already seen both those copies, again, you can just call him from your soul and get a body onto your board. Which, again, he'll just be a vanilla 10k, but, you know, it's still increasing your card advantage. So, then lastly for the Grade 3, we have Blue Deathster Sky Render Avantgarda. So he has an activate ability that says once per turn, if your soul has a Blue Deathster Sora Period, you can put a strategy from Order Zone into your soul to draw a card, and until end of turn, this unit gets power plus 5,000, and a new auto ability that says once per turn at the end of the battle that this unit attacked, if that attack hit a Vanguard or you Persona Road this turn, you can counterblast one and discard a card from hand to stay in this unit, and it gets drive -1 until end of turn. So a very cool skill, giving your Vanguard an extra 5k, as well as the ability to restand himself after he attacks, just by putting a strategy from your Order Zone into your soul, which all of the strategy cards also have a skill that activates when they're put from Order Zone into soul. So depending on which strategy you use, you'll gain an additional benefit on top of that. Now this restand is a ±0, since you have to discard one, but you get one extra drive check out of it. So you don't gain any card advantage from it, but you do gain a 4th attack every turn, as well as another chance for a trigger. You're also technically gaining an extra resource out of it too, since that strategy order is moved to your soul. You can then soul blast it out for your other soul blasting costs in this deck. Which is nice, because you can't blast out your starter in this deck, since your entire ride line relies on Sora Period being in your soul. So you definitely want to keep your starter in soul at all times, or your Vanguard won't be able to do anything. Also, the restand skill is reliant on either Avantgarda's attack hitting a Vanguard, or you having Persona Road that turn. So on turn 3, obviously you won't be able to Persona Ride at that point. So he will have to hit on turn 3 in order to get that restand. So getting it that turn is pretty much out of your hands. It's up to whether or not your opponent guards or not. However, every turn after that, as long as you Persona Ride that turn, then it doesn't matter if he hits or not, he'll still be able to get the restand off. So you do want to try to Persona Ride as consistently as possible with this deck, which I'm not running any way to search the Persona Ride in this deck. You do just have to hard draw into it. But this deck has an absolute ton of draw power, so drawing into it shouldn't be too much trouble. And of course we have our Regales piece to help with that as well. So overall, just a very powerful skill for your Vanguard. So that is the Ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the Grade 3s, we of course have our 3 additional copies of Avantgarda, double frame rare, of course, for that very much needed Persona Ride. Next up, we also have 1 copy of the normal order Regales piece, Gradius Greydall. So it is a Regales piece, so you can only have 1 of it in your deck and use it 1 time in a fight. And you can play this if you have a Grade 3 Vanguard with Persona Ride and you did not ride this turn, and it lets you activate Persona Ride. So this is just another method in order for you to get that Persona Ride more consistently, which is obviously very important for you to be able to get your restand without relying on your opponent letting your Vanguard attack through. So a very helpful card for this deck. So then the only other Grade 3 we're running is our Grade 3 Strategy set order, which is 3 copies of Shock Strategy Death Winds. So there is no cost to play this order, and it has an auto ability that says when this card is put into Soul from the order zone, if your opponent's Vanguard is Grade 3 or greater, you choose one of your Vanguards and it gets a new auto ability until end of turn that says when this unit attacks, all of your front row units get power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So when you shove it into Soul off of Avantgarda skill, he does gain that new ability to power up your front row. Now if you go first, you shouldn't use this order on turn 3 because your opponent won't be at Grade 3 at that point, and this order will do absolutely nothing. But if they are at Grade 3, you do get a pretty nice power-up skill, which will activate twice since Avantgarda will be restanding himself. So that'll give you an extra 5k to your first Vanguard attack, an extra 10k to your second Vanguard attack, and both your rearguard attacks as well for that turn. So just a very nice card in increasing your offense for your big push turns. So that is all of the Grade 3s. Moving on to the Grade 2s. First off, we have 2 copies of Blue Deathster Rekgevener. That's my best guess, people. But anyway, he's got a continuous ability that says, during your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Avantgarda in his card name, this unit gets power plus 5,000. And if your strategy card was put from Order Zone into Soul this turn, this unit gets an additional power plus 5,000. So this card is just a beat stick, but he'll be a 20k base as long as you put your strategy into Soul that turn, which you should be doing every turn thanks to Avantgarda skill. So he will be a 20k beater on your board, and we actually have a way to give him boosts in this deck as well, so he could potentially be a 20k booster if you need him to be as well. So just a nice powerhouse unit that you can slot in anywhere you want on your board. Next up, we have 4 copies of Ala d'Argente. So she has 2 auto abilities. First one says when your Vanguard with Avantgarda in his card name attacks, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So again, this should be triggering twice per turn when you restand Avantgarda, so again, she should be at a 20k base when she attacks and or boosts anytime during your turn. So then she also has her second auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if your strategy card was put from Order Zone into Soul this turn, you can Soul Blast one to search your deck or drop for up to one strategy card with a different card name as the card put from Order Zone into Soul this turn. Reveal it, put into hand, and if you search your deck, shuffle the deck. So this ability is a way to search out your strategy orders from your deck or potentially recycle them from your drop zone. She has a Soul Blast cost, so you can use her to Soul Blast out any of the strategies that end up in your Soul, thanks to Avantgarda's skill. So you can get them into the drop that way, and then use her ability to get them right back into your hand. Now, she does have to target a strategy with a different name than the one you put into Soul that turn. So you can't loop the same one every turn, you do have to alternate between at least 2 different ones. Usually I end up going back and forth between the grade 3 and the grade 2 strategy. But overall, she is a very helpful skill in helping you get your strategies when you need them, because of course if you don't have a strategy to put into your Soul each turn, then your whole deck pretty much bricks. So being able to search one out from your deck or drop is very helpful for this deck's consistency. So next up we have 3 copies of Sickle Blade of Inquest Habitable Zone. So he also has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this card is discarded from hand during your ride phase, you can Soul Blast one and put this card on the bottom of the deck and draw a card. So this is a very good ability for early game. When you discard him for your ride deck ride, you can just Soul Blast and send him to bottom to get a draw. So you effectively get to refund the discard that you had to do to ride. Which, one thing to note is you definitely don't want to discard this card on your grade 1 ride, since at that point you would have to Soul Blast out Sora period. And if you do that, then your entire Vanguard becomes vanilla for the rest of the game. So yeah, don't use him on your turn 1 ride, but when you ride into grade 2 or 3, he can be an excellent discard target in order to maintain your card advantage. So then he also has a second auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rear guard circle, if you Persona Road this turn, you can Counterblast one to search your deck for up to 1 set order, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And then until end of turn, you may play up to a total of 2 orders, and you play the next set order without paying its cost. So this can be a very nice ability. Again, it helps you search out any set order in your deck, so it can be another way to grab your strategy orders. However, the primary search target for this deck actually isn't a strategy, it's Refablishment Dock, because we're running 1 copy of that set order in this deck, and that order allows you to give all your grade 2 units boost. So if you Persona Ride and then call Habitable Zone, you can search out your 1 copy of Refablishment Dock from the deck, and it usually has a counterblast cost in order to play it, but thanks to Habitable Zone's skill, you can play it without paying that cost as well. So you can go ahead and get that set order into play for free, which will let you draw, and it'll give all your grade 2 units boost, which we are running quite a high grade 2 count in this deck. So being able to fill up your board with grade 2s and still have them being able to boost can be very helpful as well. Another good thing about this card is since it does let you play a total of 2 orders per turn, if you did have to use your Regales piece in order to Persona Ride that turn, normally that would use up your 1 order, so you wouldn't be able to put any strategies or any set order in your order zone. But thanks to this card, you can use your Regales piece and still get at least 1 set order into play that turn as well. So overall, just an extremely versatile card that is very helpful in this deck. So next we have 2 copies of Fighting Dragon Gold Dog Dragon. So he has an auto ability that says when this card is discarded from hand during your turn, if you have a set order in your order zone, you can Counterblast one and call this card to rearguard circle. So if you discard this off of Avantgarda's ability in order to restand him, you can go ahead and resolve this ability and superior call him during the battle phase, which means you actually can end up getting a 5th attack with this card. Now you will end up having to call him over top of something, but that's not really a huge deal. And if you did play Death Winds for your strategy that turn, then you will have to give up a 5k power gain on your first rearguard attack for that turn. However, gaining an extra swing more than makes up for it. So this can be a nice offensive card. I usually like to save him for my big push turn when I'm trying to go for the win. Busting out that extra attack can be very helpful in getting you across the finish line. And between your Persona Ride and Deathwind's skill, he should still be swinging for at least 25k on his own. So I really do like running this card in this deck since it gives you that little extra boost to offense. So the only other grade 2s we're running are set orders. So first off, we do have 2 copies of the strategy set order, Bomber Strategy Dusting. So again, there's no cost to play it, and it has auto ability that says when this card is put into soul from the order zone, you choose one of your vanguards, and until end of turn, it gets power plus 10,000. Your opponent cannot intercept and cannot play blitz orders. So this strategy is usually the best one to use on turn 3 if you went first, since you wouldn't be able to use Deathwinds at that point, and you'd also be relying on your Vanguard hitting in order to get the restand. So this card giving your Vanguard an extra 10k as well as some guard restrict, blocking both their intercepts and their blitz orders, can make that attack more likely to go through and make you able to get your restand that turn. So when you can't play Deathwinds, this is usually the go-to strategy for the deck. So then lastly, the only other grade 2 we're running is our 1 copy of the set order Refablishment Dock. So you can normally play this with a Counterblast 1, but 99% of the time you're only going to be playing this on turns you called Habitable Zone and you Persona Road, so you should be able to play this without any cost. And it has its auto ability that says when this card is put into the order zone, you draw a card. So just some free card advantage at that point. And then it's also got a continuous ability when it's in your order zone that says all of your grade 2 rear guards get boost. So I already talked about this card a little bit. It allows all your grade 2s to have boost, so you can fill up your entire board with grade 2s. And since a lot of our grade 2s can gain power, like Ala d'Argente or Rec Gaventer, you can end up with some pretty big boosters on your board. Also, if you're going for the play with Gold Dog Dragon for that turn, it allows you to put, like, say, Habitable Zone in your front row, since he'll be vanilla the turn after you call him. And that'll allow you to Superior Call Gold Dog Dragon over top of him, and still allow you to keep your power gain units on the back row, so you don't have to sacrifice them in order to get your extra attack. So this card is mainly just there to work with that combo with Habitable Zone. I am only running the 1 copy of it, so if you end up damage checking it, there isn't really anything you can do about that. But it's not an absolute must-have, so, you know, if you do damage check it, it's not the end of the world or anything. But if you can get it into play, it can be very helpful in making your board that much stronger. So that's all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 4 copies of Blue Deathster Hanada Halfway. So he has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Blue Deathster in its card name, you can Counterblast 1 and draw a card. So just a simple on-call Counterblast 1 for a +1 ability, giving you that much more draw power. And then he's also got his second auto ability that says when this unit boosts, if your strategy card was put into the order zone this turn, until end of that battle, this unit gets power plus 2,000, and if this unit is in the back row center column, you countercharge 1. So this card is also the countercharge engine for the deck, which is very helpful since we do have quite a few counterblast costs. As long as you put a strategy card into order zone that turn, you will effectively be able to make your Vanguard's skill counterblast free, since his countercharge will make up for it. He'll also be a 10k booster when he's behind your Vanguard, so that will help Avantgarda hits magic numbers. Now he can only get the counter charge when he's in your back row center, so any of these you put behind your rear guards won't be able to give you any additional counter charges. You will still get the 2k power gain, However, that won't make much of a difference since we're not running any grade 3 rear guards in this deck. So that power gain won't make you cross any magic number thresholds most of the time. But overall, he still is a absolutely fantastic card for this deck, giving you both extra draw power and some recurring resource ability. Which, the great thing about him is since he's locked to Blue Deathster as opposed to Avantgarda, you can actually use him on turn 2 to potentially get both your draw and your counter charge as well. So just a very, very nice card. So next we just have our Sentinels, so we're running 3 copies of Planet Wall Dragon, just your standard perfect card. Additionally, we have our 1 copy of the Nationless Blitzorder Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So then the last grade 1 we have is just our last set order strategy, which is Disruption Strategy Kill Shroud. So again, no cost to play it, and its auto ability says when this card is put into soul from the order zone, you choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, choose one of your vanguards, and it gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this is probably the weakest of the 3 strategy orders in this deck. It does just give you a retire and plus 5k to your vanguard. So not a bad ability, but usually not as good as either Dusting or Death Winds. But again, it is searchable off the ride line. And, you know, if you need to use it because of a different name for D'Argente or whatever, you can have this as a fallback option to just pick off one of your opponent's rear guards and gain that little extra power. So still not a bad card for the deck. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we just have our trigger lineup, which is 8 crits, 3 fronts, 4 heals, and 1 over. So starting first with the crits, we have 4 copies of Patrol Robo Decker Cop. So it's the crit with a skill. At the end of the battle it boosted, you can put it into soul to give all your units plus 2k until end of turn. This deck doesn't really need soul at all, so I don't really use this skill ever. I'm kind of just running it for the artwork. So if you'd rather run a vanilla crit, you can feel free to do so. Additionally, we have 4 copies of Aurora Battle Princess Loras Yellow. So just a vanilla crit this time. Next for the fronts, we have 3 copies of Cardinal Draco in Pyro. So front with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, gets shield plus 5,000. So you're 20k shield, front trigger. And then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Aurora Battle Princess Treyus Green. So it's just the vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to run any of the effect heals, you can. And then lastly for the over trigger, we have our 1 copy of Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude, Eldo Breath. So his additional effect lets you double the power and critical of all of your front row units until end of turn. So always a very devastating ability, letting you pump the power of your front row to massive numbers and give them all at least 2 crit. Which can be very nasty, especially if you check him on Avantgarda's first attack, and then you restand your Vanguard. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our 1 fight with it. And we'll fight Megumi this time. And we will be going second. Alright, so we don't want to drop Habitable Zone here, so we will discard that crit to ride Fiendanis. And Sora Period will let us drop. So then we'll just go ahead and attack.
Vanguard にアタック。ノーガード。ドライブチェック。ダメージチェック。フロントトリガー。
And she gets a front trigger that is wasted.
私のターンね。ドロー。ライド。スキル発動。
And she gets the superior called Gabrick from her deck. So I'll let that one through. And I'll let that one through too. And she gets a heal trigger that she does get. And I'll go ahead and guard that one. And we draw our over trigger. Alright, so we'll discard Habitable Zone this time to ride Stale Vein. So we'll use Fiendonis' skill first. And we can search out Kill Shroud from our deck to add to our hand. And then Habitable Zone skill will let us Soul Blast out Fiendonis and put Habitable Zone to the bottom of the deck. And we can draw. So we'll go ahead and play Kill Shroud from our hand to get it set up for later. So then we'll just go ahead and attack. And we get a crit trigger. So this time she had a superior called our front trigger. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and guard that one. And I'll let that one through. And I think I'll let that one through too. And we get a heal trigger, nice. So we will heal 1 and give the power to the Vanguard, of course. So now our last rear guard can't hit us. So now, let's see, we will discard that crit. To ride Avantgarda. And Stale Vein will let us search out a copy of Dusting from our deck. So we'll go ahead and play Dusting. And then we'll use Avantgarda's ability to put one of our strategies into the soul. So let's see, we'll go ahead and put Kill Shroud actually. So we get to draw a card, and Avantgarda gains 5k. And then Kill Shroud will let us retire one of her rear guards, so we will pick off one of these Gap Rigs. And Avantgarda gains another 5k. So then we'll call Hanada halfway to our back row center and use his skill to counterblast. And we'll get to draw again. So then we'll call Ala D'Argente over here. And we'll use her skill to Soul Blast one, so we'll Soul Blast out Kill Shroud. And we can search our deck or drop for another strategy order with a different name. So we will add a copy of Death Winds from our deck to our hand to deck thin a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and call this other Ala D'Argente as well. And use her skill again to blast out Stelvane. And now we can search out a copy of Dusting. So with that, I think we are good to go. So we'll go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first. Boosted by Hanada halfway. So that triggers Hanada's skill to gain 2k and counter charge. And then both our Ala D'Argentes will gain 5k. And she does let this through, and we got a front trigger. So we will get to re-stand this turn. And there's Refablishment Dock. So since that attack hit, we can use Avantgarda skill to counterblast and discard 1. And let's see, I'm going to discard... I think I'll drop that crit. So Avantgarda re-stands, and we can attack once again with 1 drive this time. And again, our Ala D'Argentes gain another 5k. And she gets a front trigger. So we'll attack with one of our Ala D'Argentes. And she guards. And I think I'm actually going to attack into our rear guard here. Try to weaken our offense for next turn. And she did not get her grade 4 ride. So let's see, I am going to guard this one with that front. She gets a draw trigger. So I think I'll let that one through. And my hand's full of cards with no shield, so I think I'm gonna let that one through too.
Vanguard にアタック
And let's see, we'll guard that one with that over trigger. So now we can Persona Ride. So let's see, we will go ahead and play Death Winds from our hand. And then we will use Avantgarda's ability to shove that Death Winds into our soul. So we get to draw and gain 5k. And Death Winds gives Avantgarda the power-up skill. And we drew Habitable Zone. So I am actually going to move one of our Ala d'Argentes back and call Habitable Zone to the front. And we will use his ability to Counterblast. And we can search out the last copy of Death Winds from our deck. But we're not going to play Death Wind. Instead, we're going to play Refablishment Dock. And the cost is 0 thanks to Habitable Zone skill. So Refablishment Dock will let us draw again. And all of our grade 2s have boosts now. So let's see, now we will call Hanada Halfway over here. And we can use his on-call skill to Counterblast again. And draw one more time. So I believe we are all ready to go. So we will go ahead and attack with Habitable Zone first, not boosted. So then we can attack with Avantgarda, boosted by Hanada Halfway. And now we got a whole bunch of abilities to resolve, so we'll do Hanada's first to gain 2k and countercharge one. So then we'll use our two Ala d'Argente skills to give each of them 5k. And then the skill granted by Death Winds to Avantgarda will give our front row 5k. Which, one of those 5ks is wasted, but that's okay. As she perfect guards. So since we Persona Road that turn, we can use Avantgarda's skill to Counterblast and discard one, and we're going to discard Gold Dog Dragon. So Avantgarda re-stands, and Gold Dog Dragon skill is triggered, so we can Counterblast again. And Superior Call him over top of Habitable Zone. So we'll get our 5th attack this turn. But first we want to attack with Avantgarda again. Which again triggers both our Ala d'Argentes to gain another 5k. And Death Wind skill to give our front row 5k as well. And she perfect guards again. So now we can attack with Gold Dog Dragon, boosted by Ala d'Argente for 45,000. Oh, and she got let through.
ダメージチェック
And we got her with that one.
いいファイトをありがとう
So there you go. That was my Avantgarda Blue Deathster deck. Very cool deck. Definitely like the playstyle and the aesthetic of this deck with the cool mecha robots. So anyway, I will be back soon with more deck profiles. I believe next up I will be doing the non-masks build of Astroa. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.